Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Thursday night football. We've got a big showdown matchup between the Lions and the Packers. Solid game too, 45 total in this one. There is a lot of news that is yet to break on this game. We have a lot of injured players who may be back. We have Aaron Jones coming back from his hamstring injury, very possibly. Christian Watson, who has not played a game yet, may step back into his role. We also have David Montgomery, where Coach Dan Campbell says he is expecting to be more confident about having him play this Thursday night. So this video is being recorded on Tuesday morning. So if injury statuses change between now and kickoff, there is nothing I can do about it, but there's something you can do. If you become a channel member here on YouTube, go to smizzle.tv/join. That link will be right down below in the pinned comment. And then you're going to go join our Discord, smizzle.tv/discord. That link too will be down below in the pinned comment. Then you can join into the chat with all of our VIP members, both the Twitch subscribers and the YouTube channel members, to discuss everything daily fantasy all the way up until lock. A very active Discord with approaching 10,000 members in it. So if you wanted to stay up to date with this being your overarching guide on how to look at the showdown slate, and then hanging out in the Discord with everybody else that we have in the Smiz gang, that is the best way to stay the most prepared as the slate approaches. So thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League for Week 4 is posted, but it is not available in the DraftKings lobby. You've got to go to smizzle.tv/links. That will take you to the link tree that has the link to the Listener League. It also has the Discord, my Instagram, my Twitter, fantasy football channel. Everything else is right there on the link tree. All you have to do is go there. You will find the Listener League and make sure that you get in. $10 to join, 3 max, $40,000 in the prize pool, and absolutely no rake. The best tournament that exists on DraftKings. Be sure that you're in it. We'll shout out the winners, the top 10 finishers, on the recap video that comes out every single Monday on the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel, separate from this main channel that I have. Here we have the slate. So we're going to take a look at this. Detroit, Green Bay. We already went over everything else. Like I said, there are 3 major injury implications that are going to change the face of the slate as it goes along. We have Aaron Jones, the hyper-talented Aaron Jones, the guy that makes this offense kind of go a little bit smoother with the Swiss Army knife that he can be, both in the running game, really efficient inside the 5-yard line when he's given snaps inside of there between him and Dillon, and very, very productive in the passing game over the course of his career. They're expecting him to be back. Coach Matt LaFleur said that Jones would have been a limited participant on Monday if the team had practiced, so take that for what you have. Christian Watson said Tuesday, so that's this morning, that he plans to play in Thursday's matchup. Now, we know this can go either way, right? The players always want to play, but Green Bay's medical staff is typically and historically extremely cautious with their players. Aaron Jones expected to play last weekend, and they were like, we're going to wait another week. We got a short week. We're going to hold you out here in the hopes that you can play on Thursday Night Football. So Watson expects to play, which means he feels fine. If he gets cleared, obviously he's going to play and make a massive impact on not just his stats, obviously, but Jordan Love should be more efficient if he's in there, having a number 1 type receiver that we can go to, assuming that Christian Watson is actually an alpha at whatever level that he is. It also pushes everybody else down in terms of the pecking order in the receiver room, which is not a bad thing, right? So like, yeah, you may get less targets, but if he's more efficient, they can have more sustained drives because Aaron Jones and Christian Watson are helping them get more first downs. That means more offensive plays. That means more offensive efficiency. That means more trips to the red zone. So it's not necessarily, well, he's not going to get 30% of the target market share anymore, but they may actually throw the ball a lot more, which means they'll be on the field a lot more, which means more fantasy goodness for those guys who are now going to get single coverage instead of being matched up against the other team's alpha cornerback. So having that main guy that can attract and beat double teams is not necessarily a bad thing for some of the other guys who can't, like, I don't know, Musgrave or Jaden Reed or some of these other guys. So it doesn't X them off the list for me. I think it's actually a positive when a team has better offensive weapons active all around. It helps everybody thrive. Also, David Montgomery missed last week. Head coach Dan Campbell said on Tuesday morning that he is starting to feel pretty good about Montgomery playing in Thursday night's game. So sure, they'll put Montgomery in there, let him run all the off-guard nonsense that they run with him, and he can slam into people and get 3 yards in a cloud of dust and likely take up all the inside the 5 carries and let Jahmyr Gibbs do, the stuff where he can get outside and play in the passing game because I'll get to him in just a minute. But the Lions basically have one way of doing things, and that's the way they're going to do things. And it doesn't matter how dynamic a player. They do not run their offense or script their game plan based around the talent that they have. They try to take the players and fit them into what they want to do instead of taking their game plan and shaping it around the players, which I think is not a great way to do things. But look, it's working for them right now. I love Dan Campbell as a coach. I just, I think that they need to be a little bit more progressive in the way that they view their players and their talent and how they utilize them. It's not just like, okay, well, we have slot A, so let's just put this player into slot A. But again, this is my own issues. Let's just talk about fantasy. Top captains on the week. Amon-Ra St. Brown dealing with turf toe. Still put up 22.6 points against Atlanta last week. We also saw Laporta go off, but that was mostly on one play. So Amon-Ra St. Brown dealing with this turf toe injury that he's got. They've slid like a metal plate into his shoe. It's not easy. When you have ankle, calf, or foot, or specifically toe injuries for wide receivers, so they can't get in and out of breaks as easily and as well as they could. But the fact that he earned 12 targets last week against Atlanta really speaks volume. I believe that he is going to be one of the most popular captains this week, and somebody who you should probably be targeting at captain, because I want to isolate. I'm not trying to play players that can't make it, right? I'm not trying to play players that can't be the highest scoring player on the slate at captain. Now, does that mean that it doesn't sometimes work? Oh, it certainly works sometimes, but the percentage of the people who play those sorts of tactics is outweighed, right? Like that grossly outweighs the amount of times that tactic actually wins. So like those people are flushing money week in, week out. They're essentially being the rake. And I try to not be the rake and then put myself in position to actually take down a showdown here or there to win this game, because I do play showdown kind of like Keno. It is what it is. It's one game. It's super highly variant. So we do everything we can to stack all of the advantages and avoid all of the disadvantages that put us in a negative EV spot. So that's why I always target, all you talk about are the top players to be captains. Yes, because that's what works most often. That's what I play. When I have Amon-Ra St. Brown or any pass catcher at the captain spot, I'm going to lock their quarterback to that lineup. We're going to go to Fantasy Labs later in the video, and we're going to talk about how I do that and what roles I build. You can pause the video and take a screenshot of that when we get there so that you can use those rules to build your own lineups. They are the rules that I use for every showdown pretty much, and I'll tweak them here or there, but they're the base rules that I start with every single showdown. Now, looking at Jared Goff as a captain, I think is viable. Yes, he is playing outside. Yes, last year he had some massive home road splits. He has shown them a little bit this year. 2 home games averaging 23 points per game, on the road in 1 game 14. Jared Goff's issues historically have been he does not deal with pressure very well, but last week he really did. They were in his face a ton. And he did a good job. Like, Atlanta has a solid enough pass rush to get in there and move him from the pocket and apply pressure on throws. He was hurried an awful lot. He did very well this week, even though the numbers weren't gaudy. Put up 19 points this week against a team that wants to slow it down. Green Bay, divisional opponent. If we're going to play Jared Goff in any lineup or Jordan Love in any lineup, I'm going to build 2 rules that are going to force 2 pass catchers from his team. Because if we think that Jared Goff is going to have a night that is going to make him the optimal captain, let's say a 30 to 40 point fantasy night, he throws for like 400 yards and he has 3 or 4 touchdowns. Maybe he scrambles one in because he can scoot a little bit, right? He's not a statue. He's a pocket plus quarterback. I'm going to put 2 guys that are going to catch pass. I'm going to isolate to their pass catchers. I will not make it so that a running back can't be in that lineup, but I'm essentially going to put every single person in there, and the kicker, because the kicker does correlate well with a quarterback who does well. Every point matters when it comes to showdown. Every single pass catcher that could show up is going to be in that group, and I'm going to make sure that every lineup with Jared Goff at quarterback has 2 of them in it. Now, I mentioned Laporta earlier. I think that he is a viable captain based on the target market share that he's getting. He's essentially the number 2 guy that they have within all of the other guys behind him, like Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds and everybody else. But it's like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, in terms of target market share projectably moving forward. And then you've got Reynolds and Jones and Raymond and maybe Jahmyr Gibbs if they use him the way that they used him a couple of weeks ago in the, quote, DeAndre Swift role that they had from the last 2 seasons, where he's the pass-catching running back and not the goal line running back. Again, I'm so steamed up over all of this, the way that they're utilizing players. They could be so good, Detroit. You could be so good. You could be this amazing thing. And you just ran Jahmyr Gibbs off guard like 16 times last week. So Laporta, most of his fantasy goodness this week came on one catch that was 45 yards. He did have 10 other targets, which is nice. 7 catches on 10 targets is very good. 8 catches for 11 for 84. He really only went for 39 yards. They were just dink and dunk, little flat stuff, short outs, slants, everything. And he's not breaking any tackles. But that one where he got loose deep down the field was really nice. But you're looking at an 11.5 point catch there, which was half of his fantasy production in that game. It's not something I'm going to be looking for every week. But when you have a tight end, especially on Showdown, who has touchdown upside, has the trust of his quarterback and his coaching staff, and should project to get 5 to 8 targets on a week in, week out basis, that's extremely solid, and I think it's captain worthy based on the touchdown upside. David Montgomery, if he plays, definitely has captain upside. I don't really have any rules when I have a running back at captain. Maybe I will restrict it to not have the opposing defense, but it's really not all that important, because defensive scoring is more on pass rush, is more on offensive opportunities for the other team, and highly variant in terms of touchdown scoring, which also includes kick returns as well. So like getting that double dip with a kick returner who is also a wide receiver can be important. Other captains that I'd consider. Now, I know that all those guys were from the Lions, because I think that that's where the most viable captains are on this slate. If Aaron Jones is back, and if Aaron Jones is going to play his full slate of snaps and get his full, menu of touches that you would expect him to get, I like him a lot. Now, A.J. Dillon did absolutely nothing the last couple of weeks with all of the usage. And so Aaron Jones is going to step back into a situation where the team knows that they need him offensively. And I really like the things that Coach Matt LaFleur is doing. Also, Christian Watson steps into that captain viability as well. No stats for him, obviously, because he has not played, but we saw how much of a end zone monster he is, how much they target him once they get close to the goal line. They're running a lot of plays where he's the first read, some where he's the only read. Also, when there is scrambling that happens, he does a great job of relocating and reading his quarterback and coming back, especially in the red zone. So he earns a lot of end zone targets. Big touchdown upside there. Same rules apply. If I'm going to play Watson, I'm going to include Love in that grouping. That is something that we are going to have to do. I am not going to be playing Jahmyr Gibbs at the captain spot. If you want to do that, you go right ahead. I think that he's too highly variant. Yes, I love the talent, but probably not going to be going in that direction. And I think that Jordan Love is more viable in captain than people are willing to admit. He's been very efficient in terms of throwing touchdowns this year, 7 of them through the first 3 games. And that's without 2 games with his best running back, 3 games with his best wide receiver, and he's missing his best offensive lineman as well. So it's been really a big problem for him in terms of his efficiency and what he can do, and he's done extremely well. The fact that he also adds a little bit of upside with his legs, a little bit of floor with his legs, getting in there to the end zone is the upside. Having these 9 rushes last week against New Orleans, massive floor. I don't think this is going to be an every week thing. I think we're going to get closer to like 4 to 6 rushes a week on average by the time the season gets here. I expect this completion percentage to rise as he has better talent around him. Guys who can get open greatly increase a quarterback's ability to be efficient, but he has done a fantastic job so far. And if we're going to use him, we're going to build that same sort of group. We're going to build 2. The first group is going to be all of his pass catchers. Not going to include Aaron Jones, but not going to make sure that he's not there. Going to include Dobbs, going to include Watson, going to include Musgrave. We're going to go with his kicker as well, because that correlates very well with him. Reed, we've got down here Toure as well, has seen some usage so far. So those are all the guys that we're going to build, as well as a skill position group coming back from the other side. Let's go over to Underdog Fantasy and build a pick'em card over there. If you have not claimed your free $100 from Underdog Fantasy, what are you doing? Use code ALSMIZZLE, ALSMIZZLE, and you get a first-time deposit bonus of up to $100 on your first deposit to the site that you can use for their pick'em, their battle royale drafts, best ball drafts, and everything else that they do on Underdog Fantasy. We're going to build there's no special. They've been running a lot of specials recently. They're not doing that right now. We have all of these for this week. We don't have anything on Green Bay, so I can't even build one. I can't even submit it yet. I'll build one for you, though. Let's build a correlated one. We would need somebody from a second team to make this viable. We're going to use Jared Goff he's going to throw 2 touchdowns, right? 1.5 passing touchdowns. Let's go Riley Patterson. I told you that the quarterback and the kicker do definitely correlate with one another. And let's go Amon-Ra St. Brown. over 75.5 receiving yards. I would need somebody from the other side to submit this ticket. So let's go down here. Let's find something. 200. Let's go to London. Let's do that. A home game for Jacksonville. That's the running joke on my Twitch chat, is that like Jacksonville in England is just, that's a home game for them. They're there every year. We ship them out there all the time. So there it is. $100 to win 1,000. Because I can't pick anybody from Green Bay and isolate to that, but definitely head over to Underdog today. We're going to submit that. Boom, confirm, bang. There's my 4-piece to try and win $1,000 this weekend. Getting back to a couple of players that I think are cheap enough to be value plays. Some of these will open up. Ronnie Bell opened up a couple of weeks ago where he wasn't anywhere on anyone's radar, and then suddenly, like 90 minutes before lock, maybe like the morning of, where it's like, well, Ayuk may not play, and then 90 minutes before lock, Ayuk's inactive. Well, who's going to fill that void? We ended up on a $200 Ronnie Bell, which ended up winning us as a Smith Gang group a whole lot of money. Again, join the Discord. That's where we talk about things as a group, as a collective, in the VIP section, locked to channel members and Twitch subscribers. From an early look, we have Samori Toure, who is going to bump down a little bit as Christian Watson comes back. But even in the game where they had Aaron Jones, 3 targets, 2 targets, 3 targets. He's only 900. We don't need a whole lot from him. If he was to put up a 4 or 4.5 fantasy point day, that's going to open up enough salary for us to afford one more superstar to avoid having to play a kicker or a defense in that situation, which opens up a lot. So anytime you can get a sub 1K value play, it's somebody that you are going to want to pay a little bit of attention to. Take a look at where you think the pecking order is going to play. Torrey has been somebody who they have looked to a lot and has garnered actually a couple of end zone targets as well. So you do have touchdown upside once they get in close. And another mid-range target that I think is somewhat viable, regardless of the situation, is Khalif Raymond. That's his captain price. Ignore that. We're not playing him at captain. But Khalif Raymond at 5,200, earning more than enough targets, as well as the downfield looks. A 55-yarder caught in week 3, a 46-yarder caught in week 2. They take shots to him down the field with as much off guard as they're running and as much short stuff as they have to run to Laporta and to Amon-Ra St. Brown, because that's where they win, is the short and intermediate range. Khalif Raymond is their deep threat who just threatens safeties constantly. If they can put them in a state of duress and get Khalif Raymond open, if he catches a long touchdown, you're going to need him in Showdown. I think that he's a very viable play. Watch the percentage of where he is as the week moves along, where he is going to project to be on percentage in tournaments. Let's go over to Fantasy Labs, see if we can't build a few lineups. Here's the rules that I kind of talked about. If you wanted to freeze frame this and take a screenshot of it, go ahead. These are the rules that I start with for every single Showdown. 1, going with the, I'll allow it to leave 10% of the salary cap on the table if it needs to. I don't allow a kicker or a defense in the captain spot. If you want to do it, you build your lineups however you want to do it. Yes, sometimes kicker and captain wins. Rarely. Yes, sometimes defense and captain wins. Rarely. The amount that it is played versus the time that it wins makes it not worth it to me. So it's something that I personally avoid. Kind of like I said before, I try to stack the advantages and stay away from the disadvantages so that I can win as often as possible, because winning GPPs is very hard. Pair your captain quarterback with at least 2 wide receiver, tight end, and kicker from the same team. Make sure your captain quarterback has somebody from the skill position groups. No defense, no kicker from the opponent. It doesn't mean they can't be in those lineups. It's just not going to force them into those lineups, as it's going to do with at least one player from those other positions. Pair your captain wide receiver with 1 quarterback from their team. Same with the tight end, and limit to at most 1 defense and kicker from the same game. The last rule that I kind of set is I want at least 1 player that's a running back or a wide receiver where their projected ownership percentage is less than 25%. We're going to apply those settings to try and make it so that I have some differentiation in these lineups. You can squeeze this as low or as high as you want. I want to get some players that are going to be held by less people to have more unique lineups, because you're going to split in Showdown. That's just the way that Showdown works. And when you win, you want to try and maximize how much you win. You want to put yourself in a position where if you tie for first, and you will very likely tie for first when you win, you want to tie with 5 to 15 people as opposed to, I don't know, 75 to 150 people. Try and maximize the amount of money that you win. Go to smizzle.tv/labs with an uppercase L if you wanted to get a discounted membership over at Fantasy Labs. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.